Imagine this: a billionaire with private jets, private islands, mansions in New York, Palm Beach, Paris, friends in high places, presidents, princes, CEOs. Now imagine that same man being arrested for running a sex trafficking operation involving minors. And weeks later, he's found dead in a federal jail cell. Ruled a suicide. Security cameras malfunctioning, guards asleep. And a world asking, what really happened? This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein. Not conspiracy, not internet rumor, but what we know. What was proven, what was ignored, and why the case still haunts people years later. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't born wealthy. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in a modest middle-class family. He attended college but never earned a degree. And yet, by his early 30s, he was teaching at an elite Manhattan prep school. Soon after, he left teaching and entered finance. Here's where things get strange. There's no clear public record of how he made his fortune. He worked briefly at investment firm Bear Stearns. Then, he launched his own financial advisory business. He claimed he only managed money for billionaires. By the 1990s, he was incredibly wealthy. Private jet wealthy, island wealthy, influential wealthy. But no one could clearly explain where the money truly came from. That mystery would follow him for the rest of his life. Epstein surrounded himself with powerful people, politicians, academics, business leaders, celebrities. He cultivated connections with individuals such as former President Bill Clinton and businessman Donald Trump. Both men later stated they had cut ties with him before his arrest, and neither has been charged with wrongdoing related to Epstein. He also associated with Britain's Prince Andrew, who later faced public scrutiny and legal consequences in connection to allegations tied to Epstein's circle. Epstein presented himself as a man of science and philanthropy. He donated to universities. He hosted intellectual dinners. He liked to appear as a connector of powerful minds, but behind that public image, there was another world. Young girls were being recruited. Many came from difficult backgrounds. They were told they would be paid to give massages, but prosecutors later said those massages often turned into sexual abuse. And it wasn't just Epstein. His longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was accused of helping recruit and groom underage girls. For years, this activity went largely unnoticed, or at least unpunished, until 2005. In 2005, a parent in Palm Beach, Florida, reported to police that her 14-year-old daughter had been abused by Epstein. Police began investigating. What they uncovered was disturbing. Dozens of underage girls came forward. Some said they were as young as 14. Police recommended serious felony charges. But what happened next shocked many. Instead of facing federal prosecution and potentially life in prison, Epstein reached a secret plea deal in 2008. He pleaded guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution. He served 13 months in jail. But even that sentence came with extraordinary privileges. He was allowed work release, leaving jail during the day. He spent much of his time in a private office. The deal also granted immunity to potential co-conspirators. Many victims were not told the deal was happening. For years, this plea agreement was criticized as unusually lenient. People began asking, how did he get such a deal? Who protected him? And why? For nearly a decade after his release, Epstein kept a lower profile. But he was not forgotten. Investigative journalists revisited the story. New victims came forward. In 2018, major media outlets published detailed reports revealing the full scope of the earlier allegations and the controversial plea deal. Public outrage reignited. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking charges in New York. Prosecutors alleged he had trafficked dozens of underage girls between 2002 and 2005. If convicted, he faced decades in prison. He pleaded not guilty. And then, everything changed. On August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive in his jail cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He was 66 years old. The medical examiner ruled the death a suicide by hanging, but almost immediately, questions erupted. 2 guards assigned to monitor him were reportedly asleep and later admitted falsifying records. Security cameras outside his cell malfunctioned. He had previously been placed on suicide watch after an earlier incident, then removed from it. The combination of errors, negligence, and high-profile stakes fueled public suspicion. To this day, many people doubt the official ruling. Multiple federal investigations concluded there was no evidence of homicide, but the damage to public trust was already done. When someone with powerful connections dies under questionable supervision, people imagine the worst. The case did not end with Epstein's death. In 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. She was charged with helping recruit and groom underage girls for Epstein. In 2021, she was convicted on multiple counts of sex trafficking and conspiracy. In 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. For some victims, this brought partial justice, but many still felt the larger network of enablers had never been fully exposed. It's easy to get lost in the mystery, the money, the power, the powerful friends. But at the center of this story are victims. Young girls who were manipulated. Some came from broken homes. Some needed money. Some trusted adults who betrayed them. For years, many felt ignored, silenced, outmatched by wealth and influence. The Epstein case forced uncomfortable conversations. How does power protect itself? Why are wealthy offenders sometimes treated differently? Why did it take so long? The Epstein case became bigger than one man. It exposed cracks in the justice system. It highlighted how wealth can shape legal outcomes. It fueled distrust in institutions. And it became a magnet for conspiracy theories, some grounded in documented failures, others entirely speculative. What we know for certain: Epstein was accused by dozens of women of sexual abuse. He secured an unusually lenient plea deal in 2008. He was arrested again in 2019 on federal charges. He died in jail before trial. Maxwell was convicted. Beyond that, many questions remain debated, but unanswered questions are not the same as proven conspiracies. That distinction matters. The story of Jeffrey Epstein is disturbing, not just because of the crimes alleged, but because of what it revealed. It showed how power can operate in shadows, how wealth can buy time, how victims can wait years for justice, and how public trust can fracture when systems fail. He built an empire of connections. He surrounded himself with influence. But in the end, he died alone in a jail cell. No trial, no testimony under oath, no full public accounting. And that unfinished ending is why people still talk about him today. Because when a story ends without answers, it never truly ends.